Thokozani bogogo nabomkhulu, it's Monday. I'm incredibly nervous. Today I'm giving a class, but not. Today I'm unplugging. Today I'm starting something that could destroy me. Today I'm starting something that could bring new life to me. Today I'm doing something that I feel that my soul has been yearning for. Yeah, let's read the Bible and then re rapele ke kope matla. Thokozani bogogo. Bitso la ntate la mra le mehelang, amen. Jwale kgosi ya Asiria ya romela molaodi wa yona e moholo wa ntwa le lebotho le leholo le tloang Lakishe ho futuela kgosi Ezekia a le Jerusaleme. Itse ha molaodi wa ntwa a fihla a emisa moseleng wa letshana le ka hodimo pele mmila o yang setsheng sa mohlatswi wa masela. Yaba Elekima mora wa Helekia eo e neng e le mookamedi wa lelapa la kgosi le Shebena eo e neng e le mongodi wa lekgotla le Joa mora wa Asafo eo e neng e le mongodi wa diketsahalo ba mo kgahlanyetsa. Amen. Mahlo a difofu a tla tutubullwa, ditsebe tsa botutu di thibollwe, sehlotsa se tla tlola, se tlole jwalo ka kgama, leleme la semumu le bine ka thabo, metsi a tla phorosela hara lefella, melatswana e phalle hara lewatata, hlabathi le tjhesang le tla fetoha letsha, diba dikopotse mobung o ommeng, mo enile dilao tsa diphokojwe, ho tlamela jwang le lehlaka le lodi. Amen. This is Isaiah chapter 35, verses 5 to 7. A rapeleng, ntata rona mahodimong, bitso la la letswe ho tle mmuso wa hao thato etse lefatsheng jwalo ka etswa lehodimong. O re fe kajeno bobe bo re lekaneng ba tsatsing le leng. O re tshware le melato ya rona jwalo ka re tshwarela ba re sitelwang. O se re se molekong merulane le ho ye mobe. Hobane mmuso kwa hao le matla le kganye le kgale jwalo ka o sa feleng. Amen. Amen. Bogogo nabomkhulu, today I'm very nervous because I'm not, like I'm saying, it's a teaching on my life personally. It is letting myself free. I'm very afraid. Like I said, I'm very afraid of what I'm about to impart. But I do hope that it will give some people the courage to live and to stand up for themselves. And to be quite honest, it was the comments by Christy yesterday that had me where I am. I prayed and I thought to myself, how best can I remedy comments like that? Comments that are not lies. It was not lies. That I am living in a different place, away from my children. But today, as I woke up cleaning, I believe it is Badimu who gave this message to me. So my great-grandmother, Umjali, that I twassed, she was a lady who grew up komagaeng. She was Mjali before she got married to my great-grandfather, Ntate Makubetsi. So she was Koko to my mother. Right. She also raised my mother. So my mother was raised by her grandmother. And Mjali was not, Koko Selina, by the way, that's her name. She was an uneducated woman, but very wise. And over the years, I've had snippets of memories of me being in her space and ape amutogo in her house. So that is my great-grandmother. My granddad died. My great-granddad died many years ago and left her to basically raise my grandmother and all of her other children on her own as a bereki. So that is Mam Jali. That's who she is. And then her children, my grandmother, the one that I'm twassing, she had a son of hers who was taken away, who died, who got killed for being a top student, right? Probably in the apartheid times. So I had a grandfather that I never met who got killed during that time. And my grandmother's other siblings, they died 1-1. But I want to bring you guys closer to my life. To my grandmother's older sister, Granny. Granny was living in Pretoria with her husband. And she got married to Mahanyele. And I remember growing up, you know, my cousin and I, our mothers were cousins. We would frequent Granny's house. And she had difeye, figs. She had tlaresadi grapes as well. She had chickens. She had peaches. Granny. And she got married to Ntate Mahanyele, who was a very nice man. Did what he could during the duration of their marriage. And, you know, we would go there. A lot of things that I saw was due to Granny's life. Granny was a nurse. She would go to work. Her husband, I think, would not work in a factory. Yadi called drink because never called drink goed. And every time Granny came back home, it was the first time I saw women who smoked. I'd never seen a black woman on Natsuba. Kokwaga Granny, she was very beautiful. She would come home every, you know, whenever we were visiting the holidays. And they would sit down, Lintate Mahanyele, and have gin. I think it was gin or vodka with milk. Every evening, buy a bottle, and they'd smoke in the house. And it was just nice. They were just such lovely people. Granny died when I was around 7 years old. And I don't know, you know, we grew up thinking that she's my cousin's mother. So it was like my cousin had lost her mother. But what happened after Granny died, then her husband and the family, they took everything, ya Granny. And I remember my grandmother crying for days. She couldn't even get a picture of her sister. They were very close. And we went to the funeral. It was crazy. I'd never seen anybody die before Granny. So that was Granny's life. Probably the most influential woman in my life, because when I looked at her pictures, she was so beautiful. I've never seen such a beautiful woman in my life. And then my grandmother, okay, Mutwasang, libitso la ge ke Lizzy. Well, it's a name, it's a second name, it's an English name. But libitso that she was given by her mother and her father, ke Letlo. And she hated this name. My grandmother hated this name. But une areletswe after her grandmother, Nkoko Letlo, right? My grandmother never got married. She spent many years going to Europe, going there and there, cultivating her life. My grandmother's 80 years old now. She's still alive. Last year, COVID, because she decided, look, she's not going for the injection. She's like, a COVID injection, I get sharp. So she has worked her whole life, went to Tanzania, gone to Europe, gone to Zimbabwe, my grandmother can speak every language. Almost every South African language. Sichangani, Sivenda. She speaks many languages. And this is the woman that I'm bestowed a gift from. So my mother, at some point, my mother Untwalang, she grew up Ligreni. And then later went to live Likukwaga. Koko Selina, she went to stay with her. So Koko Selina was like her mom. And my mother's life became one that was such a mystery, right? I still don't have all the details. La Tlokofeti, she's not telling me a lot. But the long and short is she met my father. I don't know what happened. Kwawanali mishmash. And then she got married again. And when she got married, I'll never forget this. She was in her late 30s and we were in my grandmother's house. And my mother told me that she was getting married to somebody who was an ex-convict. And I remember saying to her, it doesn't matter that you've been to prison so many times. Doesn't matter how your life has been. Why are you marrying this person? And I remember my mother saying to me, gosh, I just will never forget this. She said, I need to get married because if I don't, my life will never have meaning. And I remember saying to her, you don't need to, you know. Fast forward 17, 18 years down the line, my mother got killed by her husband at a neighbor's house. And it's very funny. Sorry, Bogo, I don't want to cry because I want you guys to get the lesson. It's very funny that 2 weeks before her death, she and I had a conversation. And I said to her, this guy is going to kill you and I really wish you would get away from him. And she died in 2011. Now, what is this? What is the gist of all of this? What is the gist? By the time my mother died, I had already been married. I got married. I had my child very young at school. And I think a big part of me had not healed from being a disappointment to myself. So when I met my husband, who was 19 years older than me, it sort of felt like I was getting somebody in my corner. And I remember going to bury my mother with almost nothing. With nothing. And my grandmother, Aragona, I was insisting, let's take my mother's corpse and go bury her where we want her. And my grandmother said to me, it was a statement that I did not get at the time. And I felt that my grandmother was heartless. But it was the backdrop of many lessons. So I got married very young. My mother died. When my mother died, I was already married. And after my mother's death, my marriage became in such a way that it slowly disabilitated me. From the time that I lost my mother, I lost my sanity. I lost my sense of self. I lost everything. And over the years, being married to somebody, much older than me, I started being told that to be a wife was to serve my husband. And they were not incorrect. I started being told that my dreams didn't matter. I started being told that if I didn't want to end up like my mother in the grave, then I needed to comply. So 2 to 3 years into my marriage, I was trying to be the perfect makoti. And I failed dismally because I was a child. And I failed dismally because I was a child that needed to grow. And over the years, I suppose my husband and I have fallen into the trap of what we thought society wants us to be. Over the years, my husband took away from me my sense of independence more and more. But I almost don't want to blame him because I feel that it was the world in which we lived in that I had to comply and be a wife. My grandmother continued to finance my studies on the side. And I had children. I had 4 boys. And I stayed in a marriage where I was not allowed to go out of the immediate area. I was not allowed to go out on the 31st with my friends. I was not allowed to have friends. I was in a marriage like that. I was not allowed to be anything other than a servant. Good and well, I made the decision that, well, it was okay because I was married. But I started to believe in my consciousness that wanting to study, wanting to experience the world, wanting to go and work in another place, wanting to experience life in a different way, wanting to start a business, wanting to become what I was born to be. I started to think that wanting that was wrong. And everybody around me, I suppose thinking that I would get the message, continued to just say, okay, well, she's happy, she's fine. And this went on for 14 years. When I got my spiritual gift, I had been an alcoholic for over 10 years. I was a functional alcoholic. So what does that mean? It means that because I don't have a job, because my dreams could be somewhere else, because I'm not allowed to start anything outside of the immediate parameter, because I'm not supposed to want more, because I'm supposed to sit still, because of that, it meant that my life was waking up, taking my kids to the bus stop, attending their school meetings, cooking for them. When my husband got home, picking up his shoes, taking them to the bedroom, bringing him a beer, let him watch TV. I didn't even have Facebook until, I think, 2015. Luna, Libuaka Mixit, I don't know what Mixit is. Never had it. So, in doing that and in being able to suppress wanting to be more, I found the cure in alcohol. Because as I drank, each day went by. I became really good at being a housewife. I was, I think, almost perfect. I think I was almost perfect. I think almost perfect. Nikinale those floors, let's say the polichiwang ka brush. And my floors were shining. And I went like that for 14 years being a functional alcoholic, not even being cognizant of the fact that my mother's misery and eventually her death began this way. I honestly don't know how I thought that I was going to turn out different. Because on the way of my mother working towards her death and continuously consenting to somebody taking her life and taking over her life, she did this with the help of alcohol. She did this with the help of alcohol. And in the end, all that was left was tears and the future of a very smart woman that had fallen apart at the hands of somebody who was a jailbird. I remember after she died, I tried to get hold of the Pretoria police station. I suppose the husband and the family, Nebarakile the case. Every time I would mention her name for a solid 2 years, the Outreachville police station would hang up the phone. Until someday, a police officer, Abanale Muhau, right, and Ansebela, the docket number. And I remember at that time thinking, I don't know how I'm going to put it out there that the most amazing woman in my life had been taken away by somebody else. But I was not seeing the lessons. I honestly don't know. I thought to myself, I don't know. And that is, I suppose, where the beginning of my gift started. Because she was the first person to come and talk to me over 10 years ago in my dream. Bogogo nabomkhulu. Today's lesson, I know it started out really sad, but I want to bring you guys to where I am today. Fast forward, I went a petweni, the rights, the wrongs, this, that happened. And I did 2 years of solitude in my house, still in the marriage. I lived in that setup. And my father-in-law, bless his soul, became one of the Lozis who started to teach me spirituality. But he came with Mam Jali at the time, and I didn't know her. I didn't know where it was coming from. I didn't know where the surname was coming from. I did not know where the surname Njali was coming from and who she was. And for the 2 years, she taught me. She gave me all of this that I'm sharing. And after 2 years, my father's mom, Elibadimu, Lene, she came through and she started to say to me, Kankani, I'm giving you a gift, warata warat. And I didn't get it. I had my own anger that my father was not there. Hangudisa didn't do anything for me. And fast forward, I went and I opened my salon. The salon fell apart. I'd had previous businesses before, went to cater, Zimbi, did this and that. I've gone through, many different experiences, but all functioning under alcohol. Until the past 2 years, when I started this blog. To be honest, Bokoko Nabomkhulu, I don't know how Badimu did it, but I want to share some insight on, this is the lesson part. My great-grandmother came to see me around 2 weeks ago, and she gave me something mind-blowing. She said to me, in actual fact, I think it was. I was like, what? So it was. She said, no. She said, from the time you started your blog, Badimu, by everybody who started to sign on to the blog, made an agreement with us. Made an agreement with us. Gore o tla godisiwa mo moyeng. And I said to her, okay, hang on. What does that mean? My grandmother said to me, did you go imvumukufa before utwasa in your house? No. Une utwasa under your married surname? Nah. Unutwasa badimu bakwa bomunna gago. And I said, no, that's impossible. And she said, but you used your married surname. What? Did your uncle slaughter the kgogo for you to cleanse you of the past karmic debt? No. And my grandmother said, awatwas. I was like, what? And she said, so this is how we all came up with a strategy. Because you had lost your mother, because your life, and the essence of what you were here for had stopped so greatly. And because we couldn't remove you from the mental constructs of what society and even your husband had taught you, because you had been channeled in such a way that you were like a servant. By every single one of the people who started going on the blog and the people that you started to do readings on were the ones who trained you. Okay, so how did that work? With each of you guys coming for the readings, I was like a channel. I was like a conduit. Your ancestors would pass information through to you, through me. But after you left, each of you, after you left, after you hung up the phone, then your ancestors, with my ancestors, would give me the lessons from your reading. Would give me lessons from what is happening in your life. And initially, this is how it started. When I started getting dipono, I would hear a voice say, Ribua luena. So let's say Eteboho came to see me for a reading. Whenever my dreams, my vision started, it would begin like Gogomjali talking to me about me. Except Lerato, right, is actually Teboho. You would be sitting on the other side of the phone or of sitting at the opposite end of me. And you would be hearing what Gogwahaho is saying. But she would be showing it to me as me. So in actual fact, all of your ancestors, all they did was mirror parts of my life. Bampasiporofeto, based on my life through you. I have learned lessons from Badimu Balona. And let me say this, this is not even an expose. This is a point of reckoning. Over time, in the past 2 years, my ancestors have said to me, now that Awaretwas formally, are you ready to walk this journey? Because look around you. The people who have come seeking help were actually your angels. Were actually the people who raised you. And Bogogo nabomkhulu, over the past year specifically, I have been told to leave my house. Not because my husband is a bad person, but because it is time for me to live. And because I cannot be that image. My great-grandmother was uneducated. My grandmother suffered the affliction of not being married. My mother died in a marriage. And if you look at the common cause, Granny also. Granny, by the way, died from kidney and liver failure. You look at the cause. What is the cause? Women who didn't know themselves. Women who were coping. And it felt in so many ways that my life was an aggregate of that. Was I a good mother to my children? I may have looked like it. But what type of mother would I have been if I had been dead? I'm sick now. For the past year I've been sick. It is all of those years of alcoholism. So, after learning and being told every day that I am the problem to myself, staying in a marriage where I was the problem, where my failure to comply to cooking dinners, where my failure to hand over my life became the anger, became the point at which my marriage was not functional anymore. Then I realized that all along, Ninziki Twasa, my mother, she had been coming over and over in different ways through all of you to give my life purpose. And I won't lie to you. That purpose, I'll fight for it. I'll fight for it with my everything. So back to Christy. Christy is actually my husband. He has come to a place where he would subjugate me in any way that I can become that prisoner again. He has looked away from the amazing talent. And by the way, look, my husband, Kakofemba, look. He has turned away from all of that. In actual fact, more and more, I realized that I was married to my mother's husband. All for what? Because I was ashamed that I had a child at school. That same child, Wimika Mauti, is an A student. That same child is the child who is supporting me. In my attempt to create perfection, the perfect home, I destroyed my purpose. I destroyed that same child's relationship with his father. My son's father, his life nearly fell apart. I had to go back to my baby daddy and say to his family, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry for everything. At that time, I was supposed to offer your son grace. We were young, yes, and we had every intention of getting married, but he was white and I was black. And, in retrospect, this guy gave up in matric, went overseas, went to work in a factory at 19 years old to help his child to get everything. And because I got married and my husband said that, and my in-laws and even my family was consented, that this child could not go and be with his father. I took this child away from his father. And this boy has been going, my baby daddy has been going from leap to leap over the past 17 years, trying to pick up his life. So I reflected and thought, but this perfection has destroyed so many people. As I've gone through my spiritual poverty and starting my gift, relying on your ancestors, I myself needed to grow. So Christy is my husband, and I want to ask him nicely, because he has said that he will destroy this blog. But I want to ask him nicely that he must let go. He must let go. The life that was chosen for us is a life that Badimu knew at the end of the day. A person cannot destroy me. A person cannot make me. If I am anything with regards to spirituality, I am the joint effort of you guys as ancestors. It's not one person that's going to destroy me. So I'm also highlighting you guys that there will be many other versions and fake accounts, fake Christies. There will be many versions of that because my husband has got to go through his own learning. But in that time, I ask that each and every one of you, you remember that every time you have gone on, every time you've sent a message, your ancestors have raised me in some way or another. I am not the property of my husband. I'm not the property of anybody. And from what my great ancestors told me, I'm not even their property yet. Because I kisoba twice. And I want you guys to know, please don't bother to respond to these messages. He has said many times, and he has phoned previous patients, that he will destroy this blog. Because to a person, this blog looks like glory. To a person, this blog looks like self-gratification. But to me, this blog was the rebirth. I can never tell you guys how having you has taught me through these teachings. When I go into a teaching, it's not me. Asinna. It's higher power. Even I learned from these lessons. And I pray, that we will pray for my husband and all those that align with his chain of thought. Because sometimes growth does not come in the way that we want. I remember telling him a year ago that when you came into my life, I said to him, when you came into my life, you assigned yourself for the biggest lesson of your life. And if you will allow yourself to be transformed, utwase, in truth, utwase, the spirit of truth, utwase, the spirit of transparency and clarity with regards to your life, with regards to what you've got to offer, realizing that nobody in this world owes you. And I said to him, when you can realize that, you are going to fly. And I do hope that he is going to fly. And I do hope him the best. Look, I won't lie about my husband, even no, I'll give people referrals. If I feel like you need to be referred to him, I will give the referral. Ukufemba, he's very good. But sometimes, we can't be the ngaka. Ringaka lona. And rona, we are dead inside. This is the beginning of my death. And I'm sick now because I'm starting over with nothing. With nothing. It's the beginning of my death. But it gave me such comfort to know that it is all of you. It is all of your ancestors that brought me this knowledge. So I ask you guys to just give me a bit more time. And I was just asking to pour my heart out because I don't want us to be fighting whatever forces stuck on me. I would like you guys to stay in prayer for me. Because in as much as I teach, today you guys know what I'm teaching you, what I'm taught by your ancestors. Today you guys know that. So I pray that Badimu will be with me and with all of you as we try to create conscious versions of ourselves. Conscious versions. As we try to create versions that make us only conduits, and where you are not special, you are not the gifted one, where you are just a conduit. Because guess what? When you become a conduit, then your mundau can be Tebogo, Tato, Zukiswa's ancestor. When you become a conduit, when you become empty, and you give the gift to the owner, to Munga the gift, then your abortion, your broken marriage, your cheating, your whatever, your mental institution, your whatever, means that it doesn't matter. Because the spirit of God, the spirit, samadlozi, it will transcend anybody. It will transcend any life. You don't need to be walking, for Dozi to walk through you, to work through you. The spirit of healing, the spirit of consciousness, the spirit of God, Namadlozi enu, will function, whether it's through Etebuho, whether it's through whoever. So again, another reminder now to you guys. Each and every one of you who's been called in your families, don't think that you are just called for Badimu, Horbone, Bali, Babata Hulisa Kwalekwa. You're not being called for the sacrifices. Those are all steps of the process of finding yourself. And at the same time, don't be afraid to go through this journey with nothing or with everything. Don't be afraid to go through this journey with nothing and with everything. Another thing is, for those that are gifted and saying, I don't want to take the gift, then you must know your great-grand ancestors, they've chosen you so that they can fix you. But their gift, Skwama Sabona, can work through anyone in the family. For each of us who are not willing to even consider the gift Yabadimu Barona, I want you to know that the avenues for this gift is like a Coke bottle that's been shaken. In every way. In every way. And yes, there's a lot of shame. Yes, there's a lot of shame. So, Christy, stop. I cannot be driven by humiliation anymore. I've suffered a lot of humiliation. I had my abortion, years ago. publicly displayed. So, I have gone through a lot of purging, a lot of humility. And each and every day I wake up and I say, Komudimo, I don't know how you chose me. I don't know how you gave me this gift. I'm everything that should not be given a gift. But the answer that God gave me was, that is why we call it grace. It is unearned. So, thokozani bogogo nabomkhulu, mamina atsang, yo, imleke tshwara le ke flu. Prayers for everyone who's gifted. Prayers for all of us who are going through afflictions. And as long as you are in pain, whatever type of pain, that is your sign that you need to keep moving. That is your sign that you need to rely on this purpose. Because there is only one you. In a few years' time, whether it's 80 years or 70 years, there won't be a physical you anymore. Whatever your hopes, your talents, they will go with you. And you will only be able to rely on somebody else, on a descendant, a child, a grandchild, to be able to take from your lessons. Our gifts are carved through many tears, of people who didn't have the means to put themselves first. And now, when they look back, whether it was due to social ills, whether it was economic, emotional, infrastructural, whatever, each and every one of Badimu Barona, when they look back, they realize that they could have done more. They realize that they could have been more. So, we are climbing ladders and standing on stages, on gifts and spiritual gifts taken from the poorest men and women. Gifts taken from illiterate people who want us to go to school. From gifts taken from people Banabadula in 99-year lease houses. The people who give us these gifts had nothing. The people who give us these gifts were abused women. Some of them were women. So when we take these gifts from Badimu Barona, let us take it with gratitude. Because in essence, it means your grandmother, grandfather, great-grandfather, they're giving you something that they never had. They're giving you something that no way they could get. So, Thokozani Bokoko Nabomkhulu, have a great night. And I hope we will put Christy to sleep. And I hope to bounce back soon. I was like, hey guys, was shown a dozen beats. But I hope that this will be the beginning of a new journey, not just for me, but for you guys as well. Much gratitude to your ancestors. Because each and every one of you who's had a reading with me, who's ever asked me a question, whether it's in the dream interpretation, your ancestors imparted wisdom to me. And all that my ancestors did was start to show me common things. So I'm so grateful to you, to each and every one of you. And for those who don't align with me, I know it will be difficult. Jumpa defense, no. Jumpa defense, batla go iketsa ngwele a etsa bofebe. I'm human. And when what my story is about doesn't resonate with you, walk on. You've got so much life ahead of you. You don't need to be wasting your time listening to something that doesn't resonate with you. So, thokozani bogogo nabomkhulu. Have a great Monday. Kilo robala. I hope Christy will sleep. Thokozani.